Since Saturn does not have a solid surface, if I tried to walk on it, would I sink to the center of the planet? Attempting to walk on Saturn would be an entirely different experience compared to walking on a terrestrial planet like Earth, primarily because Saturn is a gas giant with no solid surface. Let's break down what would happen if you tried to venture into Saturn. Saturn's composition and structure. 1. Gas giant nature. Saturn is primarily composed of hydrogen about 96% and helium about 3%, with trace amounts of other elements like methane and ammonia. Unlike Earth, Saturn does not have a defined solid surface. Instead, it has a thick atmosphere that gradually transitions into a deeper, denser fluid-like state and potentially into a solid core. 2. Atmospheric layers. Upper atmosphere composed mostly of hydrogen and helium. It's extremely cold and has cloud layers of ammonia ice, water ice, and other compounds. Deeper layers. As you go deeper, the pressure and temperature increase significantly, and the hydrogen gas transitions into a metallic state due to the extreme pressures. 3. Hypothetical descent. If you could withstand the intense pressures and temperatures, you would eventually reach a point where the gas is so dense it behaves more like a liquid. You would continue to sink because there's no solid ground to stand on. The descent into Saturn. 1. Initial entry. You would start in the upper layers of Saturn's atmosphere, which are relatively cold but would gradually experience increasing pressure and temperature as you descend. 2. Increasing pressure and density. As you go deeper, the pressure would increase enormously, and the gases would become denser. This increased density would create a buoyant force that could potentially slow your descent. 3. Transition to liquid and metallic hydrogen. Eventually, you would reach layers where the hydrogen becomes so compressed it behaves like a metallic liquid. At this point, the atmosphere would be so dense that moving through it would be akin to moving through a thick fluid. 4. Buoyancy and core. You wouldn't actually sink to Saturn's core. The increasing density would likely cause you to become neutrally buoyant at a certain depth, floating within the dense layers rather than continuing to sink. The core itself, if it exists as a solid or semi-solid mass, is believed to be composed of heavier elements like rock and metal. However, reaching the core is purely hypothetical because the conditions would be beyond what any known material could withstand. Challenges of Saturn's environment. 1. Extreme conditions. The pressures and temperatures would be immense and beyond anything experienced on Earth, making survival impossible with current technology. 2. Lack of solid surface. With no solid ground, walking is not feasible. You'd be in a constant state of free fall or floating, depending on the density and buoyancy of the surrounding medium. Conclusion. If you tried to walk on Saturn, you would not sink to the center of the planet. Instead, you would descend through layers of increasingly dense gas and possibly liquid until reaching a depth where you would become neutrally buoyant due to the immense pressure and density. The concept of a solid surface doesn't apply here, and the extreme environmental conditions would make it an uninhabitable journey.